Hey Cancer, I need you to settle in for this one because what I am about to share with you is not light. I just pulled cards for your energy and honestly, I had to sit with these for a moment before I could even start talking about them. The intensity here is real and it is building towards something that cannot be stopped or undone. So let me just say this up front. There is a 72-hour window approaching in your life where someone else has constructed, something they have invested time and energy and maybe even their sense of identity into, is going to fall apart. And I mean completely. Not just cracks in the foundation. Not just needing repairs. I am talking about total collapse where there is no fixing it, no going back, no salvaging what remains. The cards are showing me this is inevitable and it is coming fast. Now before you panic, this is not about you being the one who falls. You are not the collapse. But you are absolutely connected to it. Either you are watching someone you care about go through this, or you are the catalyst in some way, or you are the one walking away from the rubble. The cards are very clear that this situation involves another person's creation, their world, their carefully built structure, and it is about to implode in a way that nobody can prevent. Let me walk you through what I am seeing because each card here adds a layer to this story and by the time we get to the end, you are going to understand exactly what is unfolding. The first card I pulled is the Seven of Cups and immediately I understood the core issue here. This card is all about illusions, fantasies, unrealistic expectations, and choices that look appealing on the surface but have no solid foundation underneath. When I see this card in a reading about collapse, it tells me that whatever is about to fall apart was never built on truth in the first place. Someone constructed something based on wishful thinking, on denial, on what they wanted to believe rather than what actually is. Think about it like this. Imagine someone building a house but instead of using blueprints and measurements, they just kind of eyeball it and hope for the best. They choose materials because they look pretty, not because they are structurally sound. They ignore warning signs because acknowledging them would mean admitting they made mistakes. They keep adding to the structure even though the foundation is crumbling because stopping would mean facing reality. That is the energy of the Seven of Cups when it shows up in this context. What I am seeing here is that someone in your orbit, someone connected to your life right now, has been living in a fantasy version of their situation. Maybe it is a relationship where they convinced themselves everything was fine while ignoring all the incompatibility. Maybe it is a business venture where they kept pouring resources into something that was never going to work. Maybe it is a friendship or partnership where they built this whole narrative about what it was supposed to be without checking if the other person was even on the same page. Whatever it is, the Seven of Cups tells me it was constructed from dreams and delusions rather than concrete reality. And here is the thing about structures built on illusion. They can stand for a while. They can even look impressive from the outside. But they cannot withstand pressure. They cannot survive when reality comes knocking. And reality is about to knock very, very loudly. The reason this card appeared first is because it is the root of everything that follows. The collapse that is coming is not random bad luck. It is not the universe being cruel. It is the natural consequence of building on sand instead of stone. It is what happens when you ignore truth for so long that truth has no choice but to break through with force. For you as a Cancer, this is significant because you are someone who values emotional honesty and genuine connection. You can sense when something is off, when someone is lying to themselves, when the energy does not match the story being told. I would bet that on some level, you have already noticed that this situation was unstable. You might have even tried to point it out gently or asked questions that went unanswered. The Seven of Cups confirms that your instincts were right. What you sensed was the hollowness beneath the surface. The next card is the Magician, and this is where things get really interesting because the Magician is about skill, manifestation, using your tools and resources to create something. In a normal reading, this would be an empowering card. But in this context, following the Seven of Cups, the Magician shows me that someone used their skills and their influence to construct this fantasy. They were convincing. They were talented at making it all look real. They had the ability to manipulate the narrative, to sell the dream, to get people to believe in what they were building. This is not necessarily about malicious intent. Sometimes people are so convinced of their own vision that they genuinely believe they can make it work through sheer force of will. The Magician energy is about that confidence, that certainty, that ability to say, I can make this happen, and have people believe you. Except in this case, the person wielded their magician abilities in service of the Seven of Cups illusion. They used their charisma, their intelligence, their resources to build something that looked legitimate but lacked substance. What makes this particularly painful is that the magician has all the tools to build something real. This person had the ability, the talent, the resources to create something solid and lasting. But instead, they chose to invest all of that into maintaining a fantasy. They used their power to convince themselves and others that the illusion was reality. And now that the truth is emerging, all of that skill and effort is going to be revealed as wasted. I am seeing this play out in a very specific way for you, Cancer. This person likely presented themselves as having everything under control. They were the one with the plan, the vision, the answers. They made it look easy. They made you and others believe that they knew what they were doing. The magician energy is incredibly persuasive, and when someone with this energy is committed to a narrative, they can keep people invested in it even when the cracks start showing. But here is what the magician in this position also tells me. This person knew. On some level, they knew the foundation was weak. They knew they were stretching the truth, bending reality, ignoring problems. And instead of stopping to fix the foundation, they just got better at covering it up. They used their skills to manage perception rather than address the actual issues. That is the magician reversed energy showing up even in the upright card because of the context around it. For you, this might bring up some complicated feelings. If you cared about this person or believed in what they were building, watching them fail is not going to feel good even if part of you knew it was coming. The magician's collapse is always dramatic because they built their identity around being capable and in control. When that image shatters, it shatters completely. The third card that came through is the Page of Pentacles, and this shifted the energy in a really specific way. The Page of Pentacles is about new beginnings in the material world, learning, laying groundwork, being practical and studious. In the middle of this reading about collapse and illusion, this card tells me that there was a point where this situation could have been saved. There was a moment where someone could have approached it with beginner's mind, with humility, with willingness to learn and build properly from the ground up. But that did not happen. The Page of Pentacles in this spread shows me the road not taken. It represents the practical, grounded approach that got abandoned in favor of the grandiose Seven of Cups fantasy and the magician's overconfidence. Someone had the opportunity to start small, to build slowly, to do things the right way even if it was not as exciting or impressive. They chose not to. What I am picking up specifically for you, Cancer, is that you might have even suggested this path. You might have been the voice saying, maybe we should slow down, maybe we should start smaller, maybe we should make sure the foundation is solid before we build higher. The Page of Pentacles energy is careful and methodical, and as a Cancer, you understand the value of security and stability. You would naturally gravitate toward the slower, steadier approach. But here is what happens when someone is caught up in Seven of Cups illusion and magician confidence. They see the Page of Pentacles approach as boring, as lacking vision, as playing it too safe. They think they can skip the learning phase and go straight to the success phase. They believe their talent and willpower can compensate for lack of proper foundation. So they ignore the practical advice. They dismiss the cautious approach. They roll their eyes at suggestions to be more careful. And now, as we are heading into this 72-hour countdown, the absence of Page of Pentacles energy is going to be glaringly obvious. When everything collapses, people are going to look back and see all the moments where slowing down and being more careful would have made a difference. They are going to see where practical advice was available and ignored. They are going to wish they had taken the humble, learning-focused approach instead of charging ahead with unfounded confidence. For you, this card might bring some validation but also some sadness. If you were the one advocating for the Page of Pentacles approach, you are going to be proven right in the worst possible way. There is no satisfaction in watching someone crash because they did not listen. But the card also confirms that you saw clearly what was needed and your instincts to be cautious were absolutely correct. Now we move into the King of Swords, and the energy here becomes very sharp, very clear, very final. The King of Swords is about truth, logic, intellectual clarity, and making decisions based on facts rather than feelings. This card does not mess around with illusions or emotional reasoning. The King of Swords cuts through nonsense and sees situations exactly as they are. In this reading, the King of Swords represents the moment of reckoning. This is when truth arrives with undeniable force and all the carefully maintained illusions get sliced away. The King of Swords does not participate in fantasy. He does not enable delusion. He looks at the structure that was built on the Seven of Cups foundation with the magician's false confidence while ignoring the Page of Pentacles wisdom. And he says, "This is not sustainable, this was never going to work, and it ends now." What I am seeing specifically is that this King of Swords energy could come through in multiple ways. It might be a literal person, someone with sharp intellect and no tolerance for games, who finally speaks the truth that nobody wanted to hear. It might be a situation that forces clarity, like financial records that cannot be ignored or consequences that demand acknowledgement. It might be internal, the person who built the illusion finally having a moment of brutal honesty with themselves where they can no longer deny reality. Regardless of how it manifests, the King of Swords brings the sword of truth, and that sword is going to cut away every layer of pretense and denial that has been holding this situation together. And here is the thing about the King of Swords. He does not soften the blow. He does not sugarcoat. He presents reality in its most stark, unvarnished form. When this energy arrives, there is no more room for, "Maybe if we just try harder," or "Give it a little more time," or any of the other ways people avoid facing truth. The King of Swords says, "This is done, it was always going to be done, and continuing to pretend otherwise is pointless." For you, Cancer, the King of Swords might feel harsh because you are someone who leads with emotion and empathy. You might want to find a gentle way through this, a way to soften the landing, a way to help this person save face or preserve something from the wreckage. But the King of Swords energy does not allow for that. Truth is truth, and when it arrives, it demands to be acknowledged in full. What I am also picking up is that you might actually embody some of this King of Swords energy yourself in the coming days. You might be the one who has to speak uncomfortable truths. You might be the one who refuses to participate in the denial anymore. You might be the one who says, "I see what this actually is and I am not going to pretend otherwise." That takes courage, especially for a water sign who naturally wants to preserve harmony and protect people's feelings. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive patterns. The fifth card is the Six of Wands, and when this card appeared I actually paused because at first glance it seems contradictory. The Six of Wands is about victory, recognition, success, public acknowledgement. It is the card of triumph and celebration. So why is it showing up in a reading about collapse and failure? Here is what I am understanding. The Six of Wands represents what this person believed they were building toward. It represents the recognition and success they were so sure was coming. It represents the fantasy version of how this was all supposed to turn out. In the Seven of Cups illusion, the Six of Wands was the cup they were reaching for, the dream that justified all the questionable choices and ignored warning signs. But the Six of Wands in this position is also showing me something else. It is showing me that there was a version of events where real victory was possible. If this person had taken the Page of Pentacles approach, if they had built on solid ground, if they had listened to truth instead of the magician's ego, they actually could have achieved something worth celebrating. The potential for Six of Wands success was real. But it required doing things the right way, and that is not what happened. So the Six of Wands here represents both the dream that is dying and the success that could have been. It is the most painful card in this spread in some ways because it shows that failure was not inevitable due to lack of ability or opportunity. Failure is happening because of choices. Because someone prioritized the image of success over the work required for actual success. Because they wanted the Six of Wands parade without building something parade-worthy. For you, Cancer, this card might explain why you stayed invested in this situation even when your instincts were telling you something was off. You could see the potential. You could see that with the right approach, this person or this situation really could have been something special. The Six of Wands potential was genuine. And there is something heartbreaking about watching someone throw away real possibility because they could not get out of their own way. What I am also seeing is that in the aftermath of the collapse, there might be a lot of talk about what could have been. People might romanticize the dream, talk about how close it seemed, express regret about the lost potential. But the Six of Wands in this context is a reminder that potential means nothing without proper execution. Dreaming about victory is not the same as doing the work to earn it. The final card, the one that brings all of this together, is the Two of Cups. And honestly, Cancer, this is where I understood the full emotional weight of what you are going through. The Two of Cups is the card of partnership, deep connection, mutual respect, and genuine relationship. It is about two people or two energies coming together in harmony and balance. It is one of the most beautiful cards in the deck when it appears in the right context. But here, in this reading, the Two of Cups tells me that relationship is at the core of this collapse. Either this whole situation was supposed to be a partnership that turned out to be one-sided, or you had a Two of Cups connection with someone who is about to go through the collapse, or the structure that is falling apart was meant to be built on mutual support but was actually built on imbalance and false promises. What I am seeing very clearly is that you invested emotional energy into this situation because you believed in the possibility of genuine connection. Maybe you thought you were building something together with someone. Maybe you supported someone because you believed in them and wanted to see them succeed. Maybe you stayed in a situation longer than you should have because the Two of Cups potential kept you hoping things would balance out. But the Two of Cups in this spread, following all the other cards, shows me that the partnership or connection was never equal. One person was giving from a genuine place while the other was operating from Seven of Cups fantasy and magician manipulation. One person wanted to build something real and sustainable like the Page of Pentacles while the other was chasing external validation like the Six of Wands. And now the King of Swords truth is going to reveal just how imbalanced it all was. This is specifically painful for Cancer because you are someone who gives deeply in relationships. When you invest in a connection, you invest your whole heart. The idea that someone would accept that investment while not being honest about what they were actually offering in return goes against everything you value. The Two of Cups is supposed to be about reciprocity, and what this card is showing me is that reciprocity was an illusion in this situation. Here's what you need to understand as this 72-hour countdown unfolds. The collapse that is coming is going to hurt and it is going to be dramatic, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. This was set in motion long before you became aware of it. The foundation was faulty from the beginning. The person who built this structure made choices that guaranteed eventual failure. Your presence, your support, your genuine care could not and cannot fix what was broken at the core. The Two of Cups also tells me that in the aftermath, you are going to have some important realizations about what you want and need in your connections with others. You are going to understand more clearly what genuine partnership looks like versus what you were accepting. You are going to recognize the red flags you overlooked because you wanted to believe in the potential. And you are going to be much more discerning about where you invest your emotional energy going forward. What I want you to know is that this collapse is not your failure. You showed up with authenticity. You offered real support and genuine care. You were willing to build something sustainable. The fact that the other person was not capable of matching that energy is about them, not about you. The Two of Cups connection you were seeking was valid and worthy. It just was not available in this particular situation with this particular person. As these next 72 hours unfold, you are going to watch something crumble that maybe you once believed in or hoped for or tried to support. You are going to see clearly how unstable the foundation always was. You are going to understand why your cautious instincts were trying to protect you. And you are going to have to make peace with the fact that some people are committed to their illusions until reality forces them to wake up. Your role here is not to save anyone from their consequences. Your role is not to help maintain the fantasy for even one more day. Your role is to stand in your truth, to trust what you know, and to let what needs to collapse do exactly that. The King of Swords energy is going to require you to be clear and boundaried even when your Cancer heart wants to soften the blow. Can anyone else feel this energy of inevitable ending approaching? Like you can see it coming but you cannot stop it and you are just preparing yourself for the impact? This is real, Cancer. This is happening. And in 72 hours, the landscape of this situation is going to look completely different than it does right now.